Before the world ever believes in you, you have to believe in you. And belief starts with the conversation no one else hears. The words you whisper to yourself at 2 a.m., the voice inside your mind when nobody is watching. That voice is building your future. Talk to yourself long enough, with enough certainty, and one day the world will call it reality. Every breakthrough starts with a voice, not the voices of others, not the people who doubted you, not the people who told you what you could or couldn't do. I'm talking about the voice inside you. The one that never shuts off, the one that speaks when the world is silent. Your voice becomes your identity. The words you speak to yourself are not just sounds, they are commands to your brain, they are instructions, they are blueprints. Every time you say, I can or I can't, your mind listens and responds. Most people don't realize this, but they are hypnotizing themselves every single day with the language they use. You can talk yourself into a life of power, or talk yourself into a life of limitations, and you will always live the one you speak about the most. Think about it. When you tell yourself, I'm not enough, you act like someone who isn't enough. When you say, I always fail, you stop trying because your brain believes the result is already decided. When you repeat, I'm shy, I'm broken, I'm unlucky, you are not describing your life, you are creating your life. The identity becomes the prison. But the moment you change that voice, the moment you decide to speak as the person you were born to be instead of the person life tried to turn you into, everything shifts. Every result you want begins with a thought, a belief, a statement. And it doesn't matter if it's true when you first say it. What matters is whether you repeat it long enough for your brain to make it true. Confidence isn't something you're born with. Power isn't something given to you. Success isn't handed to anyone. They are built from the inside out. You build them with repetition, emotion, certainty, and action. You talk to yourself until the words feel real. And when they feel real, you start living them. People ask, how do I become confident? You speak like someone confident. How do I become disciplined? You talk like someone disciplined. Your identity follows your voice, because when you say something with enough emotion, your brain has only one job: to prove you right. The truth is, you don't need permission from the world to become the person you want to be. You need permission from yourself. You need to decide that the voice in your head is going to lift you, not destroy you. You need to make your internal dialogue stronger than your fear. You can't control everything in life, but you can control what you say to yourself. And that is the most powerful form of control a human being can have. When you wake up and say, I am powerful, I am focused, I am unstoppable, your body responds, your energy rises, your mind fires differently. Suddenly you take actions aligned with those words. But if you wake up and say, nothing ever changes, I never catch a break, then even when opportunities show up, you're blind to them. The opportunities didn't disappear. You disappeared behind your language. Some people are waiting for life to change before they change their words, but it works the other way around. You change your words and life starts bending to match. Every champion, every leader, every extraordinary human being begins with a voice that says, I am more than this, I am capable, I am growing, I am becoming. Not once, not twice, daily. The voice becomes the identity becomes the action, and the action becomes the life. Don't underestimate the conversations you have with yourself. They are shaping your destiny quietly. Day after day, you can talk yourself into doubt, or you can talk yourself into greatness. You can talk yourself into excuses, or you can talk yourself into growth. You can talk yourself into fear, or you can talk yourself into courage. Every time you open your mouth, even if no one else hears it, you're creating momentum toward who you are becoming. And here's the beautiful part. You don't have to believe the words when you begin. Believe comes after repetition. Certainty comes after evidence. But the words come first. Speak as if you are already there. Talk as if you have already become. Because the world won't call you successful until you say it to yourself first. Your identity isn't what has happened to you. It's what you choose to say about yourself. Talk like the person you want to become. Act like the person you want to become. Live like the person you want to become. Because the voice you feed the most is the voice that wins. So speak the words of the future you, until the world has no choice but to meet the version you've been telling yourself you are. Repetition builds belief. It sounds simple, almost too simple, but it's the foundation of every transformation. Human beings don't believe something because they hear it once. We believe it because we hear it over and over. And eventually, the brain accepts it as truth. That's how every fear is created, every insecurity, every limitation. And that's exactly how confidence, certainty, and power are created too. The problem is, most people repeat the wrong things. They repeat doubt, they repeat their past, they repeat their mistakes. And then they wonder why they feel stuck. If you tell your mind a story long enough, it becomes your reality. So the question is, what story are you repeating? Your brain is like a record player. whatever track you put on, it plays. If you wake up every morning and say, I'm tired, I'm stressed, I can't catch a break, you're programming your mind to collect evidence to match those words. You start seeing stress everywhere, problems everywhere, obstacles everywhere. But if you wake up every morning and repeat, I'm getting stronger, I'm getting better, today I rise, your brain starts scanning for things that confirm that. Same world, different mind, same day, different identity. Repetition builds belief because your subconscious mind doesn't know the difference between what's real and what's repeated. Say something long enough and your brain starts believing you. Think about how people learn to fear. They don't get scared from one failure. They get scared after repeating the story to themselves over and over. What if this happens again? What if I'm not good enough? What if I never succeed? The fear becomes belief. Now imagine if you took that same energy and used it in your favor. Imagine repeating, I always find a way. I'm built for challenges. I rise under pressure. What would happen? You would start to believe it, not because life changed, but because your internal dialogue changed. There are people who look confident, successful, powerful, but if you could hear the voice inside their head, you'd understand why. They speak to themselves differently. They don't say, I hope things work out. They say, things work out because I make them work out. They don't say, I'm trying. They say, I'm doing, I'm executing, I'm becoming. Their language creates certainty. Their certainty creates action. Their action creates results, and that's the cycle. Repetition, belief, identity, action, reality. Most people think belief comes first. They wait for proof. They wait for success before they speak like a success. They wait for confidence before they act confidently. But confidence doesn't appear out of thin air. It's manufactured. You speak it into existence before the world sees it. You repeat it until you feel it. You feel it until you live it. Repetition is the bridge between who you are and who you want to be. You become what you remind yourself of every day. If you remind yourself of your failures, you'll stay in them. If you remind yourself of your strength, you'll step into it. And this isn't pretending. This isn't lying to yourself. This is training your brain to recognize what is possible instead of what is painful. This is refusing to let your past be the loudest voice in your life. You can't control every thought that enters your mind, but you can control which ones you repeat, and the thoughts you repeat become beliefs, even when they start as a whisper. Maybe right now you don't feel strong. Maybe right now you don't feel confident. Maybe right now you don't feel like you're winning. That's okay. Say it anyway. Repeat it anyway. Because you're not speaking to the version of you that feels weak. You're speaking to the version of you that's on the way. You're speaking to the version of you that's rising, growing, evolving. Your words are planting seeds, and repetition is how they take root. When a baby learns to walk, they don't quit after falling once. They keep going, they fail, they fall, they struggle, but eventually the brain says, I know how to do this. Every success you've ever had in your life came from repetition. Walking, writing, speaking, learning. So why would becoming confident, powerful, unstoppable be any different? The challenge is that repetition takes discipline. It's easy to repeat negativity. It's easy to repeat frustration. It's easy to repeat the language of doubt. But if you want to create a new future, you have to be intentional about the words you allow to live in your mind. You have to decide, these are the thoughts I feed myself every day. Not once, not on a good day, every day. You talk to yourself until the belief is unshakable, until the doubt has no oxygen left, until the words that once felt fake now feel natural, until the identity that used to be weak now stands strong. Your mind will try to pull you back to who you were. But repetition is how you break that gravity. When you say, I am becoming unstoppable, your brain starts acting like that's true. When you say, I always find a way, solutions start appearing. When you say, I'm not done yet, your body rises with energy you didn't even know you had. There will come a moment where you don't have to force it anymore, where the belief is no longer a thought. It's who you are, where the words you once repeated to become strong are now the words you speak because you are strong, and that is the power of repetition. You speak something long enough, you feel it long enough, you live it long enough, and it becomes your truth. Repetition is not about talking, it's about programming, it's about shifting your identity from the inside out. It's about telling your brain who you are until the world has no choice but to see it too. Language controls emotion. Most people don't realize how fast their entire life can change simply by changing the words they use. One sentence can drain every ounce of strength from your body, and another sentence can fill you with power, courage, and momentum. Words are not just sounds. They are triggers. They activate emotion. They shift your nervous system. They decide whether you stand tall or collapse. The moment you change your language, you change your feelings. And when you change your feelings, you change how you move, how you think, how you perform. You can redirect your entire destiny by choosing different words. Think about the difference between saying, I'm exhausted, and saying, I'm recharging. One shuts you down, the other gives you possibility. Think about the difference between saying everything is falling apart versus I'm being shaped, I'm learning, I'm growing. Same situation, but the emotional impact is completely different. When you say I'm overwhelmed, you shrink. When you say I'm being stretched and I'm handling it, you rise. The words we choose are like levers that pull our emotional state up or push it down. Most people speak in a way that weakens them, and they don't even know it. Look at the people who thrive under pressure. They don't say, this is too much. They say, I was made for this. They don't say, this is impossible. They say, there's always a way. Their language doesn't avoid reality. It commands their emotions. They use words that give them power. They decide the meaning, and that meaning controls their energy, their focus, their resourcefulness. The difference between someone who keeps going and someone who gives up often comes down to one simple thing, the conversation in their own mind. You can take a problem and make it feel 10 times bigger by exaggerating it with your language, or you can make it feel conquerable by changing the words you attach to it. If you call something impossible, your brain stops trying, but if you call it a challenge, suddenly the mind searches for strategies. If you say, I can't, the door locks. If you say, I will learn, the door opens. Language either shuts your future down or sets it on fire. Emotions don't just happen. They are created by the meaning you give an experience, and meaning is shaped through words. Change the meaning and you change the emotion. Someone loses a job, they can say, my life is ruined and feel hopeless, or they can say, this is my chance to build something better and feel alive. The event didn't change, the words changed, and those words created a different emotion, a different energy, and a completely different outcome. Start paying attention to the words you use out of habit. Listen to how often you say, I'm tired, I'm stressed, I'm stuck, nothing works. You're not just describing your life, you're programming yourself to feel drained, frustrated, hopeless. Your language keeps you where you are. But when you begin replacing those phrases with ones that empower you, your state transforms. Instead of I'm stressed, try I'm handling a lot and I'm getting stronger. Instead of I always fail, try I'm learning faster every time. Instead of I'm stuck, try I'm building momentum. You're telling your brain what to feel. You're telling your nervous system how to respond. Your words are instructions. There is a reason champions speak with certainty. There is a reason leaders speak with boldness. It's not ego, it's strategy. They know language is fuel. They know if they speak fear, they feel fear. If they speak strength, they feel strength. Say to yourself, I'm unstoppable, and watch how your posture changes. Say, I'm done, and watch how your body collapses. One phrase drains you, the other ignites you. The difference is a sentence, but that sentence changes everything. You can turn anxiety into excitement simply by changing the words attached to it. Instead of saying, I'm nervous, start saying, I'm ready. Instead of saying, this scares me, say, this challenges me. Your heart beats faster either way. The difference is what those beats mean to your brain. Language is the switch. Flip it, and your emotion flips with it. Some people think they're waiting for motivation, but motivation doesn't just appear. You speak it into your system. You create it with your language. If you say today is going to be a powerful day, your brain prepares for a powerful day. If you say it's just another day, your brain gives you exactly that. Nothing new, nothing exciting, nothing meaningful. The world responds to your energy, and your energy is controlled by the words you choose. If you want a new life, start using new language. Talk like the person you want to be. Speak with intention. Speak with emotion. Speak with power. You're not lying to yourself. You're leading yourself. You're giving your mind new instructions, new meaning, new directions. You don't rise when life gets easier. You rise when your language gets stronger. The right words can make you act when you used to hesitate. They can make you persevere when you used to quit. They can make you feel alive when you used to feel exhausted. And the best part is, you don't need anyone else's permission to choose them, because your language is yours. Your power is yours. Your state is yours. Change your words and you will change your world. Identity creates habits, and habits create results. Most people try to change their life by attacking their behavior, their routine, their actions. They say, I need more discipline, I need more consistency, I need more motivation, but they're starting in the wrong place. You don't change your life by forcing new habits with the old identity. You change your identity and the habits follow automatically. When you talk to yourself like the person you want to become, you begin acting like that person without effort, because a person will always behave in alignment with who they believe they are. If you see yourself as someone who struggles, you'll keep struggling even when opportunities show up. If you see yourself as someone who always quits, you'll quit even when success is one step away. If you see yourself as someone who is broken, unworthy, or unlucky, you'll make decisions that match that story. But the moment you shift your identity, everything else starts to shift with it. When you talk to yourself as a winner, You make choices like a winner. When you talk to yourself as someone disciplined, you show up with discipline. When you talk to yourself as someone unstoppable, quitting stops being an option. Identity isn't built through a single moment. It's built through repeated language, repeated thoughts, repeated actions, repeated emotion. If every day you say, I am focused, I am consistent, I am becoming stronger, your mind starts to run that program. And once your brain believes that's who you are, your actions align automatically. You don't have to force discipline anymore. You just do what a disciplined person would do because that's the identity you've spoken into existence. Think of someone who says, I'm trying to lose weight. Trying is weak language. Trying gives you an escape route. But when someone says, I'm an athlete now, everything changes. They eat like an athlete, they train like an athlete, they rest like an athlete. Their identity creates their habits. Same with someone who says, I want to quit smoking versus I'm not a smoker anymore. The second statement is identity-based. It tells the brain who you are. It shuts the door on negotiation. Language defines identity, and identity defines behavior. This is why so many people fail to transform. They try to change the outside while the inside is still arguing. They go to the gym, but they still say, I'm lazy. They start a business, but they still say, I'm not good enough. They look for love, but they still say, I'm not worth it. And their actions are fighting against their identity every step of the way. You can't outperform the person you keep telling yourself you are. But when you switch the voice, you switch the life. When you start saying to yourself, I'm the kind of person who follows through. I'm the kind of person who keeps promises to myself. I'm the kind of person who shows up even when it's hard. Your brain begins to operate from that foundation. Suddenly the habits that used to feel impossible become natural because you're not fighting yourself anymore. You're aligned, and here's where the power really shows up. Once identity changes, momentum becomes unstoppable. When you tell yourself you're focused, you start looking for ways to focus. When you tell yourself you're a leader, you start making decisions like a leader. When you tell yourself you are disciplined, you find yourself doing things you used to avoid. Success stops requiring motivation. It becomes automatic because habits are no longer effort. They are expressions of who you believe you are. Look at anyone extraordinary. Before they had the success, they had the identity. A champion trains like a champion before the world calls them one. A billionaire thinks like a billionaire before the money shows up. A leader speaks like a leader before anyone follows. It starts on the inside. It starts with the words they feed themselves, the identity they choose, the belief they repeat until it becomes real. If you don't believe you're capable, you won't try. If you don't believe you're worthy, you won't allow yourself to receive. If you don't believe you're strong, you'll avoid the battles that would have made you stronger. Your identity controls your choices more than your motivation ever will. So the fastest way to change your life is to change the story you tell yourself about who you are. You don't have to wait for proof. You don't need permission. You don't need validation. You choose. Right now, if you want to act like a disciplined person, start talking like one. If you want to act like a confident person, start talking like one. If you want to act like a leader, start talking like one. Your words are not describing your identity. They are building it. Say it daily. Say it boldly. Say it until your brain believes it and your actions confirm it. Identity is the root. Habits are the branches. Results are the fruit. And it all begins with the voice in your mind. Because when you speak as the person you want to become, eventually, you live as that person without force, without doubt, without hesitation. Your inner dialogue decides your future. Not luck, not talent, not intelligence, your internal conversation. You can have all the potential in the world, but if the voice in your mind speaks fear, you will live small. If it speaks doubt, you will hesitate. If it speaks weakness, you will shrink from your own destiny. But if the voice in your head becomes your coach instead of your critic, your fuel instead of your enemy, everything about your life changes. Not because the world got easier, but because you became stronger inside. Every day, you are either building yourself or breaking yourself with that inner conversation. Some people don't need a villain in their life. They become their own. They tell themselves they can't, they won't, they're not enough, and they are unknowingly programming their future to match. What you repeat inside becomes what you experience outside. That little voice decides what risks you take, what chances you believe in, what dreams you chase, and what opportunities you allow yourself to see. You can have $1 million opportunity in front of you, but if your inner dialogue says, I'll probably fail, you will never reach for it. Your mind is always listening. When you speak words of defeat, insecurity, and limitation, your subconscious accepts those as commands. It shuts you down. It makes you hesitate. It destroys momentum before it even starts. But when your inner dialogue becomes empowering, when you say, I'm capable, I'm ready, I can handle this, your brain releases energy, focus, and clarity. Suddenly solutions appear, strength rises, and action becomes easier. The world didn't change, your voice did. Think about the moments in life where you felt unstoppable. It wasn't because the situation was perfect, it was because your inner voice said, let's go. Think about the moments where you backed down. It wasn't because you lacked ability. It was because your inner voice talked you out of trying. That's how powerful the mind is. It can either open the door or lock it from the inside. Some people think fear stops them, but fear has no power until you give it language. Fear is just energy. It becomes paralysis when you start telling yourself stories like, I can't handle this, it's too risky, I'm not ready. Change the language and the fear transforms. Say, this scares me, but I'm doing it anyway. Say, I don't know how yet, but I'll learn. Say, I've survived everything before, I'll survive this too. Suddenly fear becomes fuel. Your inner dialogue also determines how you interpret failure. When something goes wrong, some people tell themselves, this proves I'm not meant for success. But winners ask, what is this teaching me? What's the strategy here? Same event, different future. The voice of defeat ends growth. The voice of ownership creates mastery. There are people who are one decision away from changing their life, but the voice in their head convinces them to stay where it's safe, not because they are weak, but because their inner dialogue has been trained by the past instead of the future. They rehearse every mistake, every rejection, every insecurity, and then they expect to feel confident. You can't feel powerful while narrating your life with weakness. You can't feel worthy while repeating stories of unworthiness. You can't feel capable while convincing yourself that you're not enough. You want a better future? Talk to yourself like you deserve one. You want confidence? Talk to yourself like someone who is capable of greatness. You want success? Speak with certainty, not hesitation. Your inner dialogue is the architect of your actions because no matter what you show the world, the real battle is the one no one hears. When challenges come, you have two choices. Let your inner voice break you or let it build you. Say to yourself, I've handled worse. I'll handle this. When doubt shows up, don't argue with it. Replace it. Say, I was made for more. When you feel stuck, don't say, I can't. Say, I'm finding a way. When you feel behind, don't say, I'm failing. Say, I'm preparing. These are not just positive sayings. They are instructions to your nervous system. They tell your brain how to respond. They tell your emotions how to behave. They tell your future how to form. And yes, there will be moments when the voice inside tries to pull you back to the familiar. It will whisper old doubts, old fears, old failures, but you are not required to obey that voice. You can talk louder. You can rewire it. You can become the dominant voice in your own mind. The moment you take control of that internal dialogue, the world loses its power to discourage you. Because once the voice inside believes in you, it doesn't matter who doesn't. Once the voice inside is strong, setbacks can't break you. Once the voice inside says we are not done, you cannot be stopped. The world is full of people who look confident on the outside but are losing their battle inside. And it is also full of people who look ordinary on the outside but are unstoppable because their internal voice is fierce. You don't need a perfect past, a rich background, or anyone's approval. You need a voice inside that says, get up, keep going, you're built for more. That voice is your real power. That voice is your weapon. That voice is your future. Because the moment your inner dialogue becomes stronger than your fear, your future becomes bigger than your past. So there is a moment where speaking, it isn't enough. You have to live it. Words build the foundation, but action builds the structure. You can talk to yourself until you believe. You can repeat until the identity shifts, but eventually your life changes when your behavior reflects the voice inside, because the voice is the ignition, but action is the engine. You don't become strong by saying the word strong. You become strong by acting like someone who refuses to collapse. You don't become confident by saying, I'm confident. You become confident by doing the things a confident person would do, even when you're scared. Action turns language into reality. Some people talk themselves into possibility, but then they hesitate. They tell themselves who they want to become, but their actions still match who they used to be. They repeat empowering words, but they don't put themselves in situations that prove those words true. And that's where the transformation slows, because belief only becomes permanent through evidence. You show your brain what you're capable of. You prove to yourself that the new identity is real. You give your mind a reason to say, this is who I am now. Every time you act in alignment with the person you want to become, the old version of you loses power. Every time you show up when you don't feel like it, you train your brain to trust you. Every time you finish something you once would have quit, you build certainty. Confidence is not the absence of fear. Confidence is built through evidence. Evidence that you keep going, evidence that you follow through, evidence that you don't run from growth. Words start the shift, but action locks it in. Maybe you've had moments where you changed your language, changed your thoughts, changed your intention, but nothing seemed to happen. It's because the world responds to movement. Life doesn't reward wants, wishes, or theories. Life rewards execution. The universe responds to motion. When you move, opportunities move back toward you. When you take action, doors open, people appear, momentum builds. You don't have to see the whole future. You just have to step into it. And the most powerful actions are not the massive ones. It's the daily ones. Anyone can make a big promise. Anyone can post